Today we're going to be making a dip-dyed macrame plant hanger for an air plant that you can pick up from the library while supplies last. At the end of this video, I'll teach you how to care for your new plant, but first I'll show you how to make the plant hanger at home. You can dye the bell cup like I did, or if you'd rather leave it like it is, that'll look great too. The way we'll be making our plant hanger is by creating a macrame fabric, which is just a fancy way of saying that we'll be making knots out of twine and hanging our plant from them. The supply kit you pick up from the library for this program will have an air plant in it, a bell cup, and 8 pieces of cotton twine. At home, you'll just need to find the following supplies: a pair of scissors, a glass bowl or disposable cup, and optionally, some food coloring dye or Kool-Aid packets. For our first step, we're going to dye our bell cups, and you can skip this step if you don't have food coloring, but you can also use Kool-Aid packets if you have those at home. So you want to take a small glass dish or even a disposable cup, and you don't need to fill it with too much water, just about what's here, and you will dunk your bell cup in there for pretty much just a minute or two. You can leave it up in there up to 5 minutes, but you don't want to do too much longer than that or we risk it cracking. So I am now done dip dyeing my bell cup, and I'm going to move it from the cup of dye to another small glass container or just a surface that you can't stain. And we're just going to let it dry there for about 10 to 15 minutes or however long it takes. It shouldn't take too long. I forgot to mention this in the previous clip, but I had to use about 15 drops of each type of food coloring for that small amount of water. So if you use food coloring, you will probably have to use more than you think, and the water will get kind of black colored, but you can kind of test to see how dark it'll be by dipping a piece of paper towel in there and seeing how dark it is. And I am done dipping mine. I actually left it in there for about 4 minutes total, and it did dry a little bit odd. I was trying to do an ombre effect where it's kind of darker at the bottom and lighter at the top, but it looks interesting and that's all that matters. But so it is pretty much dry, and it's only been about 10 minutes. Okay, so our first step is going to be to take our 8 pieces of cotton twine, and we're just going to make sure all of the ends of the strings at one end are about at the same place, and then we're going to tie a knot about 1.5 inches down from there. So you'll just wrap them around 2 fingers and send all of the ends through that loop. Okay, and then we'll just carefully tighten that knot. It's about as long as I want it to be. And there you have that. And so our next step is going to be to spread out the ends of these strings and pair them up. So we're going to have 4 pairs with 2 strings each. So here's our first pair. Here's our second pair. And then our third and fourth pairs. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we're going to tie a knot between 2 strings that are paired together. And you're going to go about 1 inch from that knot in the center. About there. And we'll just double knot that to keep it secure. Okay, and then we're going to repeat that process on the 3 other pairs of strings, and I'll do that and be right back. Okay, so this is how it should look after you're done tying your first 4 knots. And then you're going to take one of your pairs of strings and take the left one and then pair that with the one to the left of that. And you're going to tie these together about 1 inch up from where you started. So probably right around there is where our knot's going to be. It can get a little crazy with all these strings, but it's going to look really cool in the end. So I'll do this first one so you can see how that looks. And if it's not perfectly an inch, you don't need to stress about it. It's gonna look really cool no matter what. I guarantee you mine is not perfect, but you won't be able to tell. Okay, and as we close up that knot, we just want to make sure it's about the same on each side. And then pull that tight. Okay, so that's how that should look. It kind of makes a diamond shape. And now I'm going to do that with the rest of the 3 pairs that are left, and I'll be right back. So this is what it looks like when you've completed those knots, and so you have kind of a square shape and a cross in the middle with those original knots. And so the last step is very similar to the previous one. You're going to start with 1 pair of strings and then tie the one on the left to the one to the left of that, and just continue around the square, and it's going to be again 1 inch from the starting point. Oops. It'll be about right there. And after this, I promise no more knots. Okay, wait, 1 more knot, but that'll be the final one. Okay, so that looks good. Just gonna tie that pretty tight. And so that's what it'll look like on every side. I'm gonna just go ahead and tie those off screen, and I'll be right back. So our knots are finally all tied off, and we have this contraption here. And so we're actually ready to go ahead and put our bell cup in there. So I have this that's nice and dry, and I'm going to just place it in the middle of where the knot is. And you want the knot to be hanging down outside of where the bell cup touches. So we'll just stick that there, and we'll use the knot to kind of center it on the bottom. And then we'll just gather all these strings and kind of position it so that the knot is right in the center at the bottom. So that is how that looks. Looks pretty cool. And now, before we put our plant in there, we're going to make sure we have it like we like it. And then we're going to decide how long we want this to be. I think I'll go ahead and make mine about that long. And it kind of depends where you want to hang it from. But you're going to go ahead and do the same thing you did at the beginning, and just tie that around your fingers and pull it through to create a big knot. Okay, so this is what it looks like hanging up, and as you can see, I just used a thumbtack. You can do the same thing if you have a bulletin board at home, or you can get kind of creative and use maybe a nail in the wall, buy a picture frame, or hang it from the corner of something, or if you have a light fixture that has something you can hang it from, that works too. Now let's talk about air plants. We call them that name because they live in the open air without soil, but they do still need sunlight and water to live. To take care of your air plant, you'll want to hang it in a place in your house with indirect sunlight. So that means it's in a room with a window that lets sunlight in, but the plant is never directly in the sun. You'll also want to water it once a week by submerging it in room temperature water for 10 to 20 minutes. Then you'll gently shake off the water and let it air dry for 3 to 4 hours before putting it back in your hanger. Try not to put the plant back in the bell cup before it's dry, as the water can make the bell cup crack over time. If you're new to the plant world, then this is a great first plant to have, as it doesn't require a lot of care. Just be careful not to overwater it, and it should be with you anywhere from several months to a few years. That's the end of this tutorial, so I hope you have as much fun as I did making this plant hanger, and thanks for joining me. Have a great day.